Okay, so here's the marginal cost of capital, or MCC, example that I've posted to Blackboard. Basically, marginal cost of capital is WACC, weighted average cost of capital, but you're finding a different WACC depending on how much money the company needs to raise. The more money it needs to raise, sometimes the cost of raising that money goes up, so there's a marginal cost of capital. And all this information basically is what you'd find in your case. The information you need to calculate the various component costs down here. Cost of debt is just you find the yield to maturity on the bond, company's bond, and then multiply by 1 minus the tax rate to take out the tax savings to get the after-tax cost. Cost of preferred stock or cost of new preferred stock. Basically you use a Gordon type model, right? Here from 302 we had the Gordon constant growth model equation, and then we kind of adjusted it for preferred stock. Preferred stock doesn't grow, so there's no G. The dividend doesn't grow, so there's no G, and then we adjust the notation. And, we rearranged that and found the required rate of return on preferred stock from the investor's viewpoint, which from the company's viewpoint is the same cost. This is what an investor would require before it bought the preferred stock, so that's what it cost the company. The only difference is the company has what's called flotation costs. They have to take out commissions and so forth to issue the preferred stock, so the cost of the company is a little bit higher because of that flotation cost. And with preferred stock, generally flotation is given on a dollar per share amount, so that's why it's the price of the preferred stock that they sell it for minus the flotation amount. So we will use this equation to find the price of new preferred stock. For cost of retained earnings, there's no out-of-pocket cost really, so these are all opportunity costs. For the CAPM method, you would just use the SML equation or CAPM equation, plug the numbers in. And back in when we did the CAPM, that gave you the required rate of return on equity. Now we're just doing the flip side of that, and the required rate of return for an investor is the same as the cost for the company. The DCF approach, basically use the Gordon model, rearrange it to find the required rate of return from an investor standpoint, which again on the flip side is the same as the cost of retained earnings for the company. And so this is the equation you would use to find the cost of retained earnings using the DCF approach. The bond yield plus risk premium method is just as I said in the other video. You find the company's yield to maturity, the before tax cost of debt, and add a premium to it, and I said to use 4% to that premium. So just find the cost of debt before tax, the yield to maturity, and add 4%. Cost of new equity is using the DCF approach basically, and then you've got to adjust for flotation costs like you did down for preferred stock. For common stock, flotation is generally given in a percentage amount, like a brokerage commission percentage, so you don't just subtract out the flotation cost. You multiply it by 1 minus the flotation cost percentage to get the net price that you would get from selling your stock. So this is the equation you would use for cost of new common stock. And then down here are the various projects the company is looking at. These are the costs of each project. These are the internal rate of returns for each project. We're basically, from your capital budgeting, we find the cost of capital or the weighted average cost of capital, and if the IRR is greater than the weighted average cost of capital, we would do the project. We would accept the project. In another video, I'll explain how we do that, given that we have marginal cost of capital. We have our WACC is actually increasing. The more money we need, the more cost we're going to incur.